welcome. Good morning. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Avery. I'm the director of the Mid-Atlantic Association of Museums. I'm joined by my co-host today, Charity Counts, director of the Association of Midwest Museums. I'll let her introduce herself in just a moment. We also have Eric Dougal joining us from Hub International. Hub is our other partner in crime with this Spring into Wellbeing Week. And I have to say, Eric was integral to giving us some really great tips and ideas on how to market this and how to make sessions that are really helpful to all of you. So many thanks to you, Eric, for all of your help. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a good time trying to figure out how we can make this helpful for you all. Charity, do you want to say a few words before Eric gets started today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Avery, for hosting this morning. I can't believe it's Wednesday already and Spring into Wellbeing Week. Today's morning session is about financial well-being because we know that that's one aspect of, the stress you may be feeling right now on an individual or institutional level, but also, just something that people have been creative about too during this time. So we thought this might be worthwhile conversation. And we'll have a short presentation with Eric this morning and share ideas that he has and we've got for you at home. But we also will welcome a conversation after the presentation via the chat of things that you've been trying to. So please be thinking about that as we go through this. I just wanted to mention, Hub is a partner of AMM. They are a preferred provider for property and liability insurance coverage for our members. But during this time, I just want to echo what Avery was saying about this week. Just during this whole pandemic crisis, Eric and the team at Hub have been very helpful in providing resources and webinars that have been great for nonprofits and businesses and museums all around. So hopefully you've been able to access those resources too. But thanks for being here today. We're happy to get started. Eric?
All right. So as Charity mentioned, I'm Eric Dougal. I'm with Hub International. For those of you who are not familiar with Hub, we're a global insurance brokerage firm. We do commercial insurance, employee benefits. We do some personal lines insurance as well. And we have a partnership with the Association of Midwest Museums. And my specialty area is museum insurance. And so how does insurance apply to financial well-being? Really kind of this started as I was looking for ways to help my clients as they were balancing what was best financially for their institution and how to help their employees. For a lot of our institutions and for some of the smaller businesses that I work with, employees are like family to them. And so when it came point with the COVID-19 crisis to make decisions about what they needed to do about laying off, furloughing employees, they still want to help those employees. And so being a father of three, working from home, as you can see, working from my 8-year-old's room with Pokemon, hold on, where is it? Pokemon, coverings up on the wall. We're all going through this together. It's tough for everybody. And so any way that we can help and try and help our employees, help our employers, help their employees and help drive some efficiencies from a cost perspective helps everybody. So one quick note, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a professional as it relates to this, but I did some research and came up with some really good practical ideas that I think will hopefully benefit everybody and reduce a little bit of the stress that's out there related to COVID-19 and financial well-being. So I'm going to go ahead and try and share my screen here. The document that I'm going to put up, I have sent over to Charity and Avery, and I believe they will be able to share that with you after the presentation. Share it with everybody that you want. This isn't any sort of document that I'm trying to keep secret. I'm trying to help as many people as we can. So feel free to share this with whoever as we go through. So the first thing I want to jump into is a little bit on the CARES Act, which I think most people are familiar with right now, but I wanted to put together some resources and show some resources that are out there to help you figure out, have you received your payment on the stimulus and where to go and check the status of it if you haven't. So as you know, the CARES Act kind of has three components. It's helping individuals with direct payments to Americans, expansion of the unemployment benefits, and then loans to businesses. We're not going to touch on the EIDL and the PPP loans and the stuff related to business. We want to make sure this is mostly an individual piece. So the first piece is the stimulus checks. I have personally received mine, but I did go on and check my status, and you can go on and check your status on that link that's on the site. We'll let you know where you're at with it. According to the most recent numbers I've seen, approximately 60% of eligible households have received their payments, which I thought was actually kind of low. I thought that number was going to be higher until I started doing a little bit more research and realizing that there's a number of things that are holding off these payments. In that IRS website where it says get my payment, that website is able to answer a lot of the questions related to these common delays and how to overcome them. So the first issue is if the IRS doesn't have your direct deposit information on file. That can happen for a number of reasons, but the most common one that I've seen so far is tax related services like when you do your own taxes through like I'm trying to think what the different online tax resources are, but one of the options you have with that is for them to take your payment for submitting that out of your refund, which means they take your money from the IRS before they give it to you. And so what that's accidentally done is it's created a situation where the IRS doesn't have direct deposit information for a lot of individuals. I think a lot of that's getting fixed at this point with the TurboTax and the H&R blocks and those types of situations. But that may be one of the issues that if you've used those services, you might want to get on and find out what the status of your payment is. Second reason is you may not have filed taxes in 2019 or 2018. So a good friend of mine, I was actually just talking to him in the park the other day. He was in between jobs in 2018 and their filing was a little bit different. And so he had some issues with going back on. So if you didn't file taxes in 2018 or 19, there's a link in that website where you can go and file information so that you can get your stimulus payment. Third reason, your 2019 tax return may not have been fully processed. That can be another thing that can hold it up. And then I've also heard of people not receiving payments for their children under 17. So if you're not familiar with the stimulus, if you have dependents under the age of 17, there's a $500 stimulus payment that goes with each individual child. And so if you're a veteran or you receive Social Security, there's some different pieces on that where you've received your stimulus payment but haven't gotten the payment for your children under 17. That same website, Get My Payment, has information that you need to fill out to be able to get those if that applies to you.
Eric, I just want to add one thing. I've heard friends of mine who went to submit their information for the direct deposit, had trouble getting it to go through, and discovered when they entered it all in all caps, it worked. And that they didn't do that previously. So there might be some glitches like that too if you've been trying to get that to go through. Just be patient.
Yes, and one of the things I did read was you can only check your status once a day. It only changes once a day. And if you check it too many times, they will lock you out. And so you want to be careful on that. But that's great information, Charity. I did not know that. Okay, next piece, unemployment expansion. As you may be aware, there's increased eligibility, which adds an additional and also adds additional $600 weekly to that benefit. So if you're an institution that's looking that has laid off employees, or obviously they're not working because most of our institutions are closed, how do our employees file a claim? What do they do if they have questions related to that? So there's a link on there where your employees can file a claim if you have not done that, or if you're unemployed yourself at this point. I would suggest getting on that and doing that. It's a great benefit that they've done with an expansion on it. And there's less hoops to jump through now than there was previously. So it makes it a little bit easier to get access to that money quicker. As part of our conversations here at Hub International around topics related to employment leave, sick leave, the different types of leave, effects on employee benefits, provisions related to the affordability of health insurance. We've had a number of those conversations, and there are some links to those if you have questions on some of that stuff at the bottom of this page in our COVID website. But I don't want to jump into too many of those things. But I do want to touch on, there's going to be some employees or some individuals who are earning more in unemployment with the additional dollar amount than when they were working, which for the short term can be a really great thing that we're able to help our employees and help people manage this. But it could create some instances where some people aren't interested in returning to work as they're making more in unemployment than they are afterwards. So it's going to create some interesting concepts when we go back to work. But for the short time being, it helps from a financial perspective. So that's the CARES Act. And the next piece I want to jump into is managing a budget. So a recent study by the US Bank found that only 41% of Americans say that they use a formal budget. So what that means is that there's a large majority of our workforce that does not keep track of their finances in any sort of an organized fashion. There's a number of online tools. I know mint.com is kind of the new hip, younger version for budgeting, and they track all of your expenses and link to your bank accounts. And so that's a tool that's out there. What I have used personally is I found a budget on my Mac under the Numbers app, and I was able to just plug and chug and use something very simple to create that budget, so that we knew what was coming in and what was going out. So once you've established that budget, then this is really the piece that I've found kind of most interesting and that people have found most helpful is practical uses to evaluate that budget. So the first piece comes from a little bit of the insurance portion that we work with from a personal lines perspective, operating as a one-car family. So our family's made up of my wife and I and our 3 kids. We have 3 boys. My wife's a saint dealing with the 4 boys in our household. We have 8, 6, and 4. We're at home all day, every day at this point. So I put my car on in storage, quote unquote. So from an insurance perspective, what that means is we've removed the liability coverage for that vehicle. So that means it's still covered in case, the house catches on fire or something falls and breaks the car, theft, wind, etc. But it is not covered out on the road. So if I were to drive it and get into an accident, I would be in big trouble. I would not have coverage from that perspective. But while it's in storage, I don't have to pay for those other portions. So depending on what you pay for car insurance and your driving record, you could save up to $100 a month. I'm anticipating my savings for doing this to be about $60 per month. So that's a good little piece in my pocket, especially anticipating that this is going to be by the time we're out of this, probably a 3 or 4 month piece. To be able to do that and not drive that car saves me a little bit of money. The second piece is trash collection. In our neighborhood here in Kalamazoo, trash is not included in our city taxes. I know for a lot of people it is, but for us it's not. And about 1.5 years ago, my bill jumped incredibly, and I called and I was going, what the heck is going on? And they said, well, if you go out and get a quote, we'll match it. And so I went to another group in town, got the quote, and went back, and I saved about $25 a quarter. So a few phone calls saved me about $100 on the year. It's another easy one that, if you're not watching it, can increase a little bit as we forget to look at our bills when they're coming through. The third piece, home and auto insurance. So as I mentioned, Hub does personal lines insurance, and we're really good at it. That's not really my specialty, but it's a big expense for a lot of people. By the time you get your home, a couple of cars in there, you can spend anywhere from anywhere a couple thousand to $2,000 to $5,000 on car insurance, depending on car and home insurance, depending on how big your house is, what you're driving, what area you live in. During this time frame, there's really 2 pieces that I'd suggest. Number 1, reach out to whoever your agent is, and if they're an independent agent, ask them to take it out to market. If you have a good driving record, you may be able to find some good savings in that. Personally, I market mine. I ask our agent to market ours yearly, as long as I don't have any losses. As long as I'm a good risk, I want to go out and I want to find out what's most competitive. So take a look at that. The second piece is most insurance carriers, and it really started with the State Farms and the Allstates mentioning that they're going to provide rate credits given that everybody's driving less. So if you haven't seen anything on your bill or from your agent about that, I would reach out and ask if there's any credits being provided for the lack of driving that you're doing during this time frame. Fourth one, mortgage refinance. So this is another one that I just finished. I was able to lock in at a really good rate and extend it out for another 30 years. So there's two pieces. You can either extend your loan out. So we've been in our house about 7 years now, and we extended it out to a new 30-year loan, meaning that we saved a few $100 a month when we extended it back out. Or the second piece is you can take cash out in a cash out refi as well and still get a really good rate. We ended up with a 3.25% interest rate, which is really fantastic. So we were able to save a lot of money by doing that, and that helps our monthly budget as well. A lot of that stuff can be done online now too. We didn't even have to interact with anybody other than about a 5-minute meeting where we signed our life away. Everything else was done electronically in order to keep us safe. So a lot of that has adapted and things have gotten easier to make that happen. So I would suggest taking a look at that. And then reviewing your memberships and subscriptions, right? So we all subscribe to various things, whether it's my Netflix account, my Apple account that keeps that keeps all my pictures on file, and continually increases and goes up if I'm not watching it. So take a look at what your monthly memberships are or your yearly memberships, and go back and evaluate. Are they still competitive? Are they creeping up as you've kind of lost control of them a little bit, to see what can you get rid of, what aren't you using, because that business model is going forward in a lot of ways. Kind of Amazon I think really kind of connected that and moved that forward in terms of the business model of, here you can pay a little monthly fee to be a part of something. So I would recommend reviewing those during this tough time.
Eric, I'm going to just call it a specific suggestion. If anybody has gym memberships, I know that I use Lifetime Fitness, and right now they're prorating / not charging for the months that they're closed. But under normal circumstances, you can usually talk to your gym about, or a lot of gyms will have a policy, I know Lifetime does, where you can say you can basically claim vacation for a whole month and pay a significantly reduced rate for that month. But you can't go to the gym that month, right? Like, that's kind of like putting your car in storage. It's the same concept. If you are traveling a bunch for a period of time, under normal circumstances, you can claim a month as vacation and pay a reduced rate. So you might check your gym memberships too. I mean, even when you can start going back to the gym, if you don't expect to go back to the gym for another 2 months or more, call them and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to take advantage of this. I'm not going to be at the gym. So can I pay a reduced rate for these months? Definitely worth asking.
For sure. No, it's a great idea. Cell phone, the link that I included on this is more along the lines and falls along, can I pay my bill? So the link there posts to, what are phone companies doing if I can't pay my bill? But reviewing your cell phone cost, do you have the unlimited data plan because you are always on your cell phone and always out of the house? Well, now that we're all stuck inside or stuck at our house, do you need that full data plan anymore, considering you're using your Wi-Fi? I know I don't have the unlimited data plan. I have the minimum. I don't stream a lot of video, but when I looked at my usage last month, it was down, like 60 or 70% from where it had been. So something to consider if there's an opportunity there to take advantage of cutting some of that. And then number 3 on here, GreenPath Financial Wellness. So this website is most of it's free. They do have some for fee-based subscription service things, but most of it's free. And this is really the resources if are you struggling with paying your bills? Can you not afford to pay your mortgage, your student loans? Are you struggling with unemployment? Are you looking for resources and answers to problems that you're having? GreenPath does a great job of putting all of that into one spot so that you have access to go in and click on those and figure out what's going on. There are some things that are being done and things that you can be allowed to do based on your mortgage payments and those types of things. But everybody that I've talked to in the financial sector has said, if you can afford to pay it, pay it. if you can't, reach out to those organizations and see if you can get on a separate payment plan. One of the things that we're afraid of is that if people don't pay their mortgage because they're allowed to push it off a month or two, they're still going to owe all of that money in one lump sum at the end of this period of time. And so what we don't want to have happen is you don't pay it because you may be able to, but you're struggling a little bit. And then what happens is all of a sudden you're hit with, hey, you owe us $5,000 or $10,000. And now you're in a situation where they could foreclose on your home. So everybody I've talked to said, if you can pay it, but work with the groups as they're being pretty flexible on that. So GreenPath is a good place to start if you're having issues like that. All right. So I want to open it up for questions. That's pretty much the end of what I have here. There is a link that when Charity and Avery send this around to our Coronavirus Resource Center, that's mostly related to businesses and employers, but there are some resources there for individuals as well. And obviously, I'm happy to help in any way that I can as you look at managing your expenses. So with that, let's open it up.
All right, thank you so much, Eric. I know that some people have already put some suggestions in the chat about other cost-saving options. Victoria said with phone bills, don't be afraid to join other family plans or have people added to yours. Apparently she did that and saved, cutting the cost by $70, which is a good savings. I also mentioned in here after Charity was talking about her local gym, I'm a member of my local YMCA, and what they have done, because they still need the money for their childcare programs, they're also feeding a lot of people in Greater Erie right now. They contacted us about using that as a charitable deduction on our taxes. So if you're a member of your YMCA, that's an option too. Just be sure to call your member services agent and talk to them about what those options are. And I know ours has been pretty flexible too about payment plans or suspending your membership if that is something you need to do without any fees or anything. So please put other suggestions in the chat. We'll be free to talk about them on here. What other ways have you all saved money? Or Charity or Eric, feel free to chime in too.
You know, I saved the. I'm not here to lecture anybody on, hey, don't go to Starbucks and get your latte and that sort of thing, because I would be or don't go out to eat or that type of thing, because during this time frame, I mean, those organizations need our support too, right? In Kalamazoo, a gentleman created this really cool Facebook page to help support the restaurants around here. And although we've had some restaurants that have closed their doors, I think a majority of the people in the area have said, you know what, I'm doing pretty well. I have the means. We're going to support these restaurants. And so as we look at some of these things, you know, it's like the YMCA, we're in the same boat. They need our money, just like our museum institutions need our money, and our big brothers, big sisters, and our other nonprofits need our money. But if we can find ways to save so that we can either, get through this or help other organizations with those savings, I think is really important.
Absolutely. I also posted in the chat, MAM is sharing a bunch of funding sources for either individuals who might be employed in the arts, or we're doing our best to update every time the humanities councils from our states have grants available. So if it changes every couple of days, and we keep updating it as much as we can. But if you're looking for some funding for your site or even for personal use, there are some organizations on here that are doing personal grants too. Please take a look. I put that link in the description if you're interested.
I wanted to mention one other thing too. My husband's friend, I was just telling Eric about this morning, his friend who lives in Kalamazoo has started a new business and it launched it last week with a kind of a focus on Western Michigan, but really anybody across the country could go through this process with them. To help people get connected with financial assistance for medical bills, hospital bills. I think if any of you have bills that are still floating on your desk from before the crisis, or maybe it's something from during the crisis and you just can't afford to pay it, it's possible that you qualify for financial assistance. The problem is it's hard to get anywhere right now, right? To go to like turn in documents and forms that hospitals require, but also, just getting all those forms pulled together. If you don't have a printer at home, you can't print the forms and do all of that. So what my husband's friend decided to do was, based on his own experiences with his grandfather recently, who had this problem, decided to set up a website where you can actually submit, go through a process of seeing if you qualify. And then if you do, submit all your documents to them and they'll help compile all that for you. And the fee is nominal compared to what hospital bills would be. I think maybe it's under $100, or something like that. It's called Hospital Financial Assistance, or hospitalfa.com. I think either URL will get you there. I'm going to post it here. If you happen to be somebody who's dealing with that, it's a good resource to see if you qualify. They can get you set up. It's a great service. So.
And Charity, the other thing that you mentioned that I think is really key with that is they're healthcare professionals, right? So, we do a lot of work in employee benefits. I know how hospitals bill, and there's times I'm still confused, right? It's not an easy process, and just knowing how it works can be really important. So the fact that they're healthcare professionals, I think, makes it that much easier for them to navigate a system that I think can be very confusing for the rest of us.
Right. They've been in the healthcare industry for a long time. And I think, like I said, he was inspired by the challenge with his grandfather. And think about that for family members of your own that maybe have struggled with this too. I think it's a hard process, unfortunately, going through the hospitals for this. And it's different for every single hospital. And so they're trying to help streamline it. We got another suggestion in the chat. Looks like Avery.
Yeah, Deborah, that's great. So Deborah's added a few new categories to her budget. So takeout, tips, and mail. And that's great. That's a great way to do it. I mean, obviously we want to continue to support these organizations, but you're right. If you don't add them to your budget, they can add up and they can take control of it a little bit. So that's great that you've added those in and continue to support, and so that you don't end up with that surprise shortfall. That's great. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Any questions or other ideas? I'm curious if anybody's had some interesting sources of revenue during this time. I mean, I've got friends who are improv actors who've done trainings, like they've continued to offer training for people who are trying to figure out how to collaborate right now, for, a small fee, but do they do it via Zoom? But I don't know if anybody else has done interesting things like that with their skills and talents at home, to bring other income in. I think it's interesting if you've got anything like that to try it. Well, my stepbrother is doing tutoring too. He's offering tutoring for parents that don't have the time to help their kids with schoolwork at home. So
I think we're going to see, one of the benefits, I guess, if you will, of COVID-19 is we're seeing businesses adapt. We're seeing individuals adapt, and things that I think, I saw a meme the other day that was somewhat funny, but very true. And it was, what caused your organization to, I'm trying to think how they worded it, become more technologically advanced. And it was a multiple choice question, CEO, CFO, IT person, COVID-19, right? And COVID-19 was circled, right? We've all had to move into that kind of 21st, jumping into the technology sector, working remotely, and individuals coming up with ways to, drive revenue during times like this. The improv thing, I think, sounds really fun. I've seen groups that are musical do the same thing, right? They're going to host a little concert for, a couple bucks a person and or something to benefit somebody else. So it's cool to see people adapt and do this. I see people selling a lot of stuff on Facebook and eBay and cleaning out their houses. There's groups around here in my neighborhood that are selling plants, right? They have raspberry plants that have overgrown, and they're pulling them out and trying to drive a little extra dollar or two during this time frame by selling them on the curb. So every little dollar helps.
I saw Victoria in the chat mentioned not a traditional source of revenue, but using Rakuten, especially since we're doing a majority of our shopping online. That's very true. I use Rakuten. I know another one I think is Honey. So that's another one that pays you for shopping online.
Oh,
Um,
I've never heard of that.
comfortable doing it because I know that what they're doing is essentially tracking what you're buying for whatever company that is giving the cash back. But sometimes those incentives can be as much as 15% of whatever your purchase is. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, I've gotten quite a bit of cash back and have paid for a couple of Christmas presents for folks using it. But
So Avery, what type of products are you talking about when you shop online with it?
so if you go to, I think it's just Rakuten.com, essentially you sign up for an account and then you go on the website that you're going to use. And not every website's on there, but for example, like if I wanted to buy a sweater from Macy's, you would click the link through Rakuten, and it usually requires you to download a plugin on like Google Chrome, so you can click and receive whatever percentage off that is, and then usually within a couple of days it'll update your account with how much you're going to receive back, and then quarterly you receive those payments either in your PayPal or by a check or however you want to receive that money. And
Wow.
depending on what you buy, you can get, I think the most I've gotten back has been like 25. I don't do a lot of shopping online, but it's a way to get some quick income.
Yeah.
I guess the other way I would point out is, we do a lot of Amazon shopping, right? Just especially during this time frame. But Amazon has their Smile account that you can sign up for, right? So as it relates to, you make those purchases and they donate to your favorite nonprofit. And so I know when we originally set ours up, I'll give a little shout out to a museum here in Kalamazoo, the Air Zoo, right? Love the Air Zoo. My kids, we spend literally any day that it's raining or we can't go outside, we are at the Air Zoo. It's awesome. So I'll give that little shout out. But so like when we purchase stuff from Amazon, it's not a lot, but you'd be surprised at how much it's built up over a year and a half or 2 years that it's been doing that. So you can set that up at smile.amazon.com and you can select from literally, it's like a gazillion nonprofits.
And it's really, we're on Amazon Smile, and it's really, really easy to set it up. You can import all of your information from GuideStar, and they set it up pretty quickly. Are you on Amazon Smile, Charity?
Well, I'm not. I haven't set AMM up there. That's a good idea, though. It's funny because I was thinking of like schools and other nonprofits that everybody around here supports. I didn't think about AMM. I was going to say that Kroger, a grocery store at least in Midwest areas, they have a similar program. So with their membership program, you can add a nonprofit and they'll donate to that. I know that I'm on the board for the IUPUI Liberal Arts Alumni Association, and a lot of us have signed up for Kroger rewards, basically through donations, go back to the schools. Like they've got like basically a shop, I don't know what you want to call it, like a store that students can get things for free. They can get basic supplies, some food, and then business clothes, attire for interviews and stuff. And so you can have it donate to them. So that's what we're all doing. But you can set it up to go to other nonprofits that are set up there too.
Yeah, there's a local grocery store in our area that does that too, Harding's Market in Michigan, which is a kind of a Southwest Michigan group. And they do the same thing. Yeah, it's a great way to do it. And then Rebecca just referenced that she switched her from her savings account to an online bank and is earning more interest, right? Another great way to look at it. Look at your banking relationship and figure out, does it make the most sense for what you're doing right now?
Another, this might be for post-COVID, but if you are struggling with buying supplies for programs later on at your museum, Amazon Smile also has a wish list option that you can put items on and people can purchase for you. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you might want to look into if you're interested in using Amazon Smile once everything, reopens. We don't know what that looks like, but it's a great way to put even those big wish list items that you might not necessarily think people would purchase. It's like a registry for like a wedding or a baby shower. Yeah. On the expensive things, you never know who will buy them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's
a
great
good way
idea.
to give back.
Yeah, it is.
Lots of great suggestions this morning. Any questions or other suggestions before we close out our conversation today?
For streaming services, add screens to your account and share with friends and family. It's cheaper than individual accounts. Yep.
That's true.
Yep.
Spotify,
Absolutely.
you can, family accounts, I think, are $14.99 on Spotify. And I mean, I have myself, my husband, my parents, my sister, all in one account.
Yeah.
Nice. Matt, I appreciate the shout out. I love it.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions or comments, thank you all for attending today. And Eric, thank you so much for sharing your tips. We will get that PDF out to everyone by the end of the week. We don't know exactly how we're going to do it yet, but we're going to send out all of the information from this week's sessions that we're having to all of you. So stay tuned.
Yes.
Anything?
No, I appreciate Eric's time. Thanks, Avery, for your suggestions too, and for everybody who participated today and ideas you threw out there. Hopefully this was helpful. You keep going. You can do it.
We can get through this. We will do this.
Yes.
We will be stronger because of it. And you know what? As happy as the three of us look right now, we're struggling too, right? I mean, like, working from home is hard. You know, it's hard on me. It's hard on my wife. It's hard on my kids. It's hard on everybody. So if you're struggling during this time frame, you are not alone. And even though we're smiling right now, the reason we're smiling right now is because we're on this call together and we're face to face and we're dealing with this together. So if you are struggling, that's okay. It's not normal for this to be easy for people. This is hard, and it doesn't matter what your situation is. So in any way that we can help, this is great. And Avery and Charity, this is, the feedback that I've heard, both inside the museum world and then outside the museum world with my contacts on LinkedIn and Facebook going, oh my gosh, this is so cool that they're doing that, and engaging their members. So you guys are doing a great job with it, and just appreciate you involving us.
Oh, well, thanks, Eric. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Avery.
Thanks for your support. Yes, as Karen says, this too shall pass. So happy hump day, everyone. We're one day closer to the weekend. So please take care, and we'll see you later on this afternoon, maybe.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye,
Bye everyone.